Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. Buckle up. Get ready for takeoff. Today, we're flying to the territory of wealth inequality. Yes, that's the direction we're going. That's our destination today, is wealth inequality and selfishness. Yes. So, as many YouTubers are putting out content every day on this topic, and they're all telling you that the wealth divide has never been greater. There may be some truth in that, but we've always had a wealth divide throughout history. I say I'm a history buff. We've always, even in Roman history, Greek history, whatever continent you go on, we've always had the rich and the poor. And in between, there's kind of a middle class, if you will, the aristocracy. You had the ultra-wealthy, your kings and queens, right? You also had this middle class in between. They weren't peasants, but they weren't the rulers either. They were the merchants. They were the people that worked for various companies of their time. And so there has always been a middle class. I learned this in sociology years ago. I had a teacher come up and say, the middle class will never die. There'll always be three groups of people. There are always going to be those who have no ambition, they do very little, if anything, and they always end up poor. There will be those who do some. They're going to be the middle class. And those who do much, they're the wealthy. Let's take Elon Musk. You may think, well, he's the wealthiest man alive, right? But he works 16, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when you complain, I got to work 2 jobs, I got to work 3 jobs to make ends meet, Elon is working 3 jobs. If you think about it, from the moment he gets up, probably, I don't know when he gets up, there is no doubt about it, he is constantly working. You may not think of it as work, but he's on the go. Let's put it this way. He's not sitting around with a 6-pack of beer watching cable TV. He's not doom scrolling on his phone either. Just putting that out there. You can like him or hate him, but billionaires like Mark Cuban, no matter who it is, you watch the ultra wealthy, right? But they're working 16, 20 hours a day. Do they ever spend time with their families? Elon Musk now has, 13 kids? Does he ever spend time with his kids? Quality time? Playing baseball with his son? Tea time with his daughter? Does he? I bet not. I bet his own kids have to make an appointment to see him. I don't know. I don't know much about his personal life. I'm just saying he's working around the clock. Most of your wealthy people do. I know lawyers that work 16 hours a day, and they don't spend time with their kids either. So, yeah, there's wealth inequality. Yeah, absolutely. But this has always been a thing. It's caused many revolutions, like the Bolshevik Revolution. Throughout history, there's, the poor, like there's a reason that the Communist Party rose up in China. But did it ever help the poor like they promised? No. In fact, it made people more poor. Even in communist Russia, it made people stand in line to get a loaf of bread. Have these revolutions ever really helped the poor? No. Never. Never. There's never been a utopian society throughout history. Never. People say we want change. Well, change will never come. Ever. It's just the way it is. So, the title of this video is Wealth Inequality. I'm just trying to give you a brief history lesson. I don't want this video to be 40 minutes long like the last one, because you can go into depth throughout history and show you, the poor have always been with us. Jesus himself said that. The poor will always be with you. Always. You're always going to have the poor class, the middle class, and the upper class. Always. There's always, it's just, you think, if you go on YouTube, they say it's never been greater. There is some truth to that. I was watching Asmongold react to one of the videos putting out that kind of content. They have all these graphs, like the upper 1% controls how much of the world's wealth. It's astonishing. You can look this up. Go to your AI program, ask it about wealth inequality, who owns what, the 1%, how much of the world's wealth do they have. You can get all those stats. You can get that yourself. But throughout history, there have always been people who they feel entitled. Here in America, we have a very entitled population. I suppose you heard the news about Doge, right? This $5,000 that they claim you're going to get. They never made that claim, actually. But that's what's going all over the internet. Oh my God, we're going to get $5,000. I'm entitled to that $5,000. You're entitled to nothing. So it's the government's job to give you $5,000 to lift you out of poverty. The only person who can lift you out of poverty is you. The only person who can lift myself out of my situation is me. The only person who helps me is me. Now we're going to get in the meat of this video. Selfishness. It's a virtue. Absolutely it is. There is a children's book called The Little Red Hen. Now, you may think it's silly, right? It's a children's book, but a very powerful message. In this book, we have this little red hen, and this book was published in Russia. Now, what's ironic is it was published in the late 1800s in Russia. You know who else lived in Russia around the early 20th century? The author of this book, Atlas Shrugged, Ayn Rand. It's my guess she read this book as a child and it influenced her, because this book right here is the same story as this. Very similar. Because when I read this, I've seen the 3 films, by the way, but you've got to read the novel. It's far better than the movies. In the novel, you have Dagny Taggart, Hank Reardon. Dagny's trying to protect her railroad. Hank is trying to protect his steel plant from the parasites of the United States government. They take from the rich, eat the rich, and that was the plot of the film. Very similar to this. Same story. This is a children's version. I think Anne was mesmerized by this story and what happened with her family in Russia. It inspired her to write that book. Now, why is selfishness a good thing? Well, I was watching Shark Tank one day, and this guy came up in I think it's season 3. He had this thing on the back of the pickup truck, this rack system for the back of the truck, the Visor rack, whatever he called it. And Damon John said, if you can't help yourself, who can you help? So selfishness is a good thing because you are the rock. If you ever grew up on a farm or had a garden, you go out and the root of the tree or the root of the plant has to be healthy or the whole plant dies. The tree dies and all its branches. So selfishness is good because you are that root. You are the rock. Your family may depend on you. You have to be strong, or you can't provide for your family. It just makes sense. You got to put yourself first. I know that sounds like a cruel thing to say, but you have to come first. Period. Because that gives you the strength and the courage and the confidence to help others. Because you'll have the ability to do that and the confidence to do that. So selfishness is a virtue. I mean, it's that way in nature. The root of the plant has to be strong or the plant dies and there's no harvest. If the root is weak, you don't take care of it, keep the weeds out, help keep the bugs out, you don't get a harvest. You don't get tomatoes. If it's a tomato plant, let's say it's a tomato plant, right? If you don't take care of that tomato plant, water, sunshine, and keep the roots strong, keep that plant strong and healthy, it can't produce a harvest. You're not going to get tomatoes or apples if it's an apple tree, regardless of what plant it is. I want you to think about that. Now back to the Little Red Hen. I'm not going to read this book, but the premise of the story is we got a society of lazy people that feel they're entitled. And here she is. Who will plant this wheat? Cried the Little Red Hen. Think about that. Let that soak in. Should have washed it off a little bit. Who will plant this wheat? Cried the Little Red Hen. Not I, said the cat. Not I, said the dog. Not I, said the mouse. They wouldn't help her plant the wheat. They wouldn't help her harvest the wheat. They did nothing to help her make that loaf of bread. They all gave excuses, and they laid around on the farm. They all gave excuses, and they said, not I, not I, not I. Then, in the very end, she was baking the bread, and all the animals who would not help her produce that bread could smell the aroma. Oh, that smells so good. How does that relate to our economy in America today? We have producers and we have parasites. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's a parasite, but there are parasites out there. I got this one woman on YouTube, and there are YouTube, you can look them up, welfare queens, who brag on having 12 kids by 12 baby daddies, living off the taxpayer money, and they think it's funny. I don't think it's funny at all, and I hope they lose their benefits. You can't take away from my kids. Well, you know what? They need to lose their benefits. I'm sick and tired of this BS. We just have this... There's so many people that just feel entitled. You're not entitled to anything. I'm not entitled to anything. Everything I've got in life, I had to go out and work for it. So back, when she finally took the bread out of the oven, she said, "Who will eat this cake?" asked the Little Red Hen. "I will," cried the cat. "I will," cried the dog. "I will," cried the mouse. But the Little Red Hen said, "All by myself, I planted the wheat, I tended the wheat, I cut the wheat, I took the wheat to the mill to be grounded to flour. All by myself, I gathered the sticks, I built the fire, I mixed the cake, and all by myself, I am going to eat it." And so she did, to the very last crumb. After that, whenever there was work to be done, the Little Red Hen had 3 very eager helpers. Well, that's not what's happening today, is it? Because the helpers don't want to be eager. What's happening today? Do you know what's happening today? They tell that little red hen, you are greedy, you are selfish, and we are entitled to a piece of that bread or cake, whatever it is. They called it a cake, I guess. We want a piece of your cake. We're entitled to it, but they did nothing to help her make it. But they accuse her of being selfish and self-centered, only thinking of herself. Because they don't want to work for it. And that's what we have today. You got people out there who go out and they work hard to provide for their families, okay? But we also have parasites who feel they're entitled to what you've got. I just seen the scene from Yellowstone. There was a scene in Yellowstone that talks about this very issue. I guess there was a grizzly bear on the property. The man gets out of the truck and there's a tour bus. And got these Asians, I guess. Must be from China. And this one little Chinaman accused this man of saying, because he said, this is all my property. And he told Mr. Yellowstone, I don't know what the man's, I don't follow the series. Kevin Costner is the actor. The little Chinaman says, no man should be allowed to own all this property. He should share it. Wrong. This is America. If Mr. Costner, I don't know what the character's name is, he worked hard to provide for his family, and that's his property. That should be his property. We got a situation going on here in the Midwest right now with a squatter situation. And I'm going, there's one way to deal with a squatter legally. You know what that is? Play by their rules. If a squatter wants to squat, and that's your house, you have the right to squat in that house. So the moment they leave that house, you may have to have some friends help you out with this situation. The moment they leave, you walk in that house and squat, just like they did. And it's your house. What are they going to do? Oh my God, you're squatting. It's my house. I can squat in my own house. So play by their rules. You got a squatter, squat. If that's your house and you got a legal deed to that property, if they want to squat, do as they do. I mean, they can't stay in that house 24 hours a day. Get a network of friends and say, we're going to take back my house. That's how you take it back. The moment they walk out that door, you walk in that door and you squat. It's your house. What are they going to do to you? You're squatting on your own property. Yeah. You got to play by their rules. You know? So selfishness is a virtue. You got to take care of yourself first. Because if you don't, who can you help? Damon John said that on Shark Tank. And he's very right. It's like you own a business. You own a hot dog stand, a restaurant, or clothing store, little boutique. You know, you sell clothing, you sell cookies, whatever business you decide to open up, right? Retail. That's your business. You don't need parasites coming taking what belongs to you. You work hard for it. You should be allowed to keep what is yours. But we have parasites who feel they're entitled. Just like that man on Yellowstone. No man should be allowed. This land is your land. This land is my land. It should be shared. Belong to the people. That's how communists think. That's communist thinking. I am anti-communist. I am pro-capitalist, and I do not apologize for that. Ayn Rand is a very prolific author, and I have not read The Fountainhead yet, but I probably need to read it, because this book and this book are virtually the same. I think she was inspired by this, and she wrote this. This is the grown-up version of the Little Red Hen. You just got corporate magnates trying to protect their companies from government parasites who want to take what belongs to them. I'm not going to let anybody take what is mine. I've had to work for everything I've got. I don't get government benefits of any kind. I don't even get a senior discount. I'm over 55. I qualify for the senior discount. I don't even ask for that. I don't. I could, but I don't. Very few places actually give that out anymore because the majority of our population is over in their 50s and 60s anymore. So they no longer offer it. I can see why. So I don't get anything from the government. I get nothing. I have to go to work, and that's why you haven't seen me on YouTube. I've been working the last 3 days. I work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I'm off today, so I'm shooting a couple of videos back to back. Again, selfishness is a virtue. I know you're going to throw rocks at me. This is not going to win in the popularity contest. There's leftists who are not going to like what I'm saying. I am pro-capitalist, and I don't apologize. I've had to, like I said, I work for everything I've got. Nobody gave me anything. I didn't inherit anything. I pay my dad $600 a month rent, whether you believe it or not. I don't live here for free. I got to help my dad. I've worked all my life. Everything you see is bought and paid for. I work. And I'm going to protect what I have. I'm not entitled to it. Nobody helps me. The only person that helps me is me. So selfishness is a virtue. I help myself. You bet I do. Or else who can I help? If I can't help me, how can I help my dad? I got to help me. I got to make sure that I'm strong. If I don't help me first, how can I provide for a future wife? If I meet somebody again, how is that going to appear? Like a weak, like that video on Saturday? That made me look weak. That's why I got to get rid of that video. That's not who I am. Sure, I fall down, I get hurt just like everybody else. When I made that video, I fell down and I hurt myself, and that's an allegory, but yeah. So, but selfishness is a virtue. You got to help yourself, build yourself up. That'll give you the ability to help others. Then you can provide for your wife and your kids. Because you have the ability and the confidence to do that. I'm just saying. You got to come first. It's okay to be selfish to a point. You want to practice altruism? That's great. It's okay to be altruistic. But, you know, like I said, I'm repeating myself again. I do that a lot. That's just who I am. So that's just part of my, I guess it's part of my personality. But you got to be strong. You got to be the rock of your family. In the Native American tribes, you got to be the warrior. No woman wants a weak man a crybaby. That video Saturday, that's how I appeared. And you had every right to rake me over the coals over that. But I'm flawed. I make mistakes. I fall down. I get hurt just like everybody else. I got to thinking, I shouldn't have made that video, but I was just being myself. And what, I'm supposed to be perfect 24 hours a day? Did I stay in that position? No, I got out of it. Apparently, I snapped out of it. You gotta get back on your feet. Land on your feet. Come on. Dig yourself out. That's what I did. I do it all the time. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. It's okay to be selfish. Take care of yourself first. When you're the rock of your family. You got a wife and kids to provide for. Or if you're a single mom, you got to be strong for your kids. You got to take care of yourself first. It means take care of your budget too. That goes with your finances. If it means giving up a latte for a couple of days, so your kid will have a school lunch, so your kid can have decent clothes. You got to think of your kids, but you also got to think of yourself. Now, I know that sounds contradictory, but when you think of yourself first and you practice some form of financial responsibility, whether through Dave Ramsey, that'll give you the ability to take care of your children. Make sure your kids have new clothes for school. Make sure your kids have school lunch. So, yeah, you got to take care of yourself, but sometimes you got to have self-sacrifice. There's a happy medium here. But you got to be strong. You got to be the rock of your family. Or all the branches die. Like I said, if you have a garden, you got to take care of those plants. You got to keep the weeds out, keep the bugs out, or you don't have a harvest. So selfishness is a virtue on some level. Absolutely it is. But there's a happy medium. But we have too many entitled people. All these people that now feel entitled to that $5,000. That's a rumor, and it's purely speculative. Don't be betting your life on it. Americans are already counting on that. And that's sad, because there's a good chance that's never going to happen. The only person who can help you is you. The only person that has helped me throughout the years is myself. I don't get disability. I don't get food stamps. I get nothing. The government gives me nothing. And there you go. And you can look that up too. Does your man collect any kind of benefits from the government? Nope. You won't find it anywhere. Not collecting anything. Not so much as food stamps, disability, any government aid of any kind. I get nothing. I get zero. Zip. Zilch. I help me. I've always helped me. And that sounds cruel to you, but that's the way it is. That's what society has taught me. Get your ass out of bed, get your ass out of that chair, get your ass off that couch, go out there and earn a living. I had a wife for many years I had to take care of. Yeah. So, again, yeah, I had to provide for her. I get nothing from the government. Zero. Yep. So, you got to take care of yourself. Then you could, like I said, you can take care of others. That sounds cruel. That's fine. Throw rocks at me. That's fine. Tar and feather me. That's fine. But that's what I believe. And you need to take care of your family. But you can't do that unless you take care of you. You got to be strong for your family. There you go. I got to cut this video short because I think I made my point. I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself because I do that a lot. I mean a lot. So yeah. Read this book. It's a good book. It's better than the movies. There's supposed to be a TV miniseries, but that's never come to fruition. I heard the Daily Wire picked up the rights to it, but I haven't seen anything. If you don't want to read the 1,000 pages, then read this little book. And it's a children's book, but it's got a powerful message. It's the same thing as this book. They are one of the same. It's the same story. Because I think Ayn Rand was influenced by this, and she wrote this. It's the same thing. You got Hank Rearden protecting his steel plant from the parasites. They told Hank Reardon, well, you're not allowed to own all these companies. You've got a monopoly, so you got to share the wealth. Fuck you. You play a share the wealth card on me. Eat a bowl of fuck. I work hard for my money. I'm going to keep it. Now, if I decide to help others and be altruistic, that's my own free will. If I want to help the Salvation Army or muscular dystrophy, I'll do that anonymously of my own free will. That's right, anonymously. That means I might come on YouTube and say, guess what? I just gave $500 to the Salvation Army. Pat myself on the back. I want my just rewards. Now, if I give anonymously, and it's nobody's business who it is. That's my own free will of my own choosing. I choose who I want to help. And the best way to do that is to do it anonymously. Now, Mr. Beast does it for clicks. I get it. He pats himself on the back for clicks and views. I try not to do that on this channel either, as best I can. So, it's hard to say au revoir. So, au gratin. We're going to cut this video short. Au gratin. Au gratin. I'm pushing the button. Oh no.